All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another 5-Day Deal webinar. This is a series of webinar that the folks at 5-Day Deal have put together to give more insight into what's going on and then highlight some of the faces that are in the bundle. So we're gonna talk with a couple of them. Tim Shields, Colin Smith, and Bobby Peterson are on the hot seat this time to talk through photography stuff. And then towards the end of this webinar, we're going to talk about their products in the bundle and what those products will give you as photographers wanting to up their game. So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded, obviously, so you'll be able to check it out later. So no worries if you aren't able to attend. If you're not here, don't worry about it. So it will be recorded and made available on demand later. Also, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom window there. If you've been in a Zoom before, you probably know about that. So go ahead and throw your questions in there. The 5-Day Deal team are in the webinar. Griffin and Patricia are here behind the scenes. They'll be answering questions in the chat and kind of throwing the most pertinent ones over to me so that we can answer them during the Q&A segment, which will happen towards the end of the presentation. We're going to try to end right at the hour, right about 59 minutes from now. So we'll try to keep it as precise as possible. Know that there's going to be a lot of people in here, obviously, and we're not going to be able to answer all the questions that come on, but we will try to get to, the most pressing ones and as many as we can, balancing the value that these photographers will be, sort of giving in terms of the conversation and the Q&A segment. So that's it for my little housekeeping piece. Let's dive into our panelists. I'm looking at my screen, working from left to right. Let's start with Tim Shields. Tim, welcome to the webinar, man. How's it going?
It's going really well. I'm coming to you from Vancouver, Canada, and my thing is landscape photography, and it's really awesome to be here.
Okay, awesome. You know what? I'm going to share each one of your Instagram profiles while you're introducing yourself so people can kind of get a visual understanding of the kind of work you do. And while we do that, I want to remind people to, go ahead and throw in the chat where you're from, the kind of photography that you enjoy doing so that we can get a feel for the audience that's here. So, Tim, when you're at Photo Plus Expo, and people stop you in the hall and they say, "Hey, man, what kind of photography do you do? Who is Tim Shields?" What do you tell them?
Yeah, so my passion is landscape photography, and the reason that I love it is because it gets me out the door and gets me out exploring and creating and discovering and keeps me always curious. It connects me with the earth and even with the weather and the sunsets, and it gets me to the most beautiful places on earth. And I can't say enough good things about landscape photography. It's like a true art form. And when we are taking fine art landscape photography photos, like, we're actually creating true art. We're creating it from the earth, and we're creating it out of thin air. And we're creating something that's beautiful that people are going to want to, individual photographers will want to print their own photos and hang them on their wall at home and create their own art. It's an exciting thing, and I love it.
That's fantastic. Well, cool. Welcome. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you. There's a lot of stuff to talk about and a lot of stuff to pack into a short amount of time. So this is going to be really insightful. Next on the list, Bobby Peterson. Bobby Peterson is here. Hey, Bobby, what do you, when people stop you in the halls and ask you about your photography, what do you tell them?
Well, basically, our story is a little bit more unique as far as how I got from Bobby Peterson to Twig and Olive Photography. Our company is actually a merge of two photography studios. So it's myself and then my two business partners who are a husband and wife team. We actually, about 6-7 years ago, we were friends first and just kind of worked together, kind of more business acquaintances. And a long story short, it just was a lot of joking conversations. Hey, we should just merge our businesses, eliminate half of our overhead, and just be able to do things that much quicker. And then eventually the story there was less laughing that came after that statement, and we really need to do this. And so about 5 years ago, we did it and we merged our businesses, and that's how Twig and Olive was formed. And so what we specialize in is portrait photography, so families and newborns, and then also weddings. But we also provide a lot of online teaching, workshops, different presets, actions, editing tools, marketing sets, things like that as well. So, and we're based out of Madison, Wisconsin, but travel quite a bit when we're in a normal non-pandemic situation.
Yeah, a normal Earth. Yeah, I love it.
So,
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. That's a great explanation and great work. I love the cohesiveness of everything. It's like, you know, you can tell where it came from. It's very cool.
thank you. That's a huge word, and with between Doug and Courtney, my two business partners, and myself, is cohesiveness, and so it's
Yeah,
good
keep it all
here to
together.
get
Yeah,
the feedback.
love it. Love it. All right, and last but not least on the panel is my friend, Mr. Colin Smith, the guy behind Photoshop Cafe and lots of other stuff. He's an educator since the beginning of time, right, Colin?
Yep, me and Gandalf started about the same time.
Riding T-Rexes around, yeah. No, it's good to have you on, man. Well, give us your elevator pitch.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I'm Colin Smith, and I run PhotoshopCafe.com. My background was actually graphic design, and then I started mixing it with my photography. So one of the things I like to do is shoot different elements, put them together into compositing. But another passion of mine is aerial photography with drones. So I've also been traveling around and shooting a lot of stuff and creating fine art with that. But a lot of my emphasis is really on showing people how to do things with their photos. So I'm not a purist by any sense. You know, I'm all about manipulation and, you know, bringing it into Photoshop and creating fine art and Lightroom and just processing and doing some cool stuff. I mean, some stuff, you know, looks great straight out of the camera, like, you know, some of the aerial stuff on there right now. But I also love to experiment with other things, you know, extending it a little bit in post.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, the that's a whole nother webinar, right? Talking about purists and
Yeah.
I call them pixel punishers versus the purists, right? So
Right. I'm definitely a punisher.
I'm a punisher too. I do. Yeah, I always say pixels were born to be punished. That's their whole purpose in life, punishment. Well, cool. Let's start off with the conversation. My first question to you guys, and Bobby, I'll throw it to you first. Is, you know, we got a sort of a glimpse at your world and how the Twig and Olive, you know, cohesion came together, right? Tell us, you know, for people that are watching this and they're, you know, they're interested in like, okay, how do you go from, I love photography. I think I'm a competent photographer. I know my way around the lens or two. People tell me my work is great, but I don't have the following these guys have. How do I go from, you know, a couple of hundred or dozen followers? And if, is that the metric, right? How do I go from that level all the way to, you know, I'm on stage somewhere teaching, inspiring, and being the Bobby Peterson of the world? How do you bridge that gap?
Well, I think, and I think all the panelists here can kind of relate to this. When we started, or when I started with photography specifically, it was kind of the wild, wild west on Facebook. A lot of our social media followings started when you made a post, and every single person who followed your page, it showed up in their news feed. It showed up in their in their feeds and stuff like that. And so now you have to be a little bit more creative with stuff that you're posting. And for us, the biggest thing is that we have to be consistent with our social media posting. We get a huge following and a huge amount of people that book us for weddings, for portraits, for newborns through Instagram. And so it wasn't something that we were very interested in doing about 3-4 years ago. But once we saw how many people were on Instagram and on the different social media, even Twitter, just being able to utilize all of those different social media platforms and to post consistently. So for us, we're posting at least 3 to 5 times a day minimum on all of our social media platforms.
Wow. Wow. So that, okay. So
It's
that's intimidating, I think, for a lot of people, you know, myself included, you know. So I'm curious how the rest of you guys deal with that, because I hear that posting 3 to 5 times per day, and then I multiply that over all the different places that you could be posting, and the day's over, right? And then there's no room for anything else, let alone, you know, downtime. So I'm curious how you how professionals manage that and still manage to put out the body of work that you guys are putting out. Tim, how do you manage that? How do you manage the whole social media world? What are some tips that you give people to kind of increase their following without, increasing their stress too much?
Yeah, it's a tough one because the algorithm on Instagram is such that if you're not posting regularly, then Instagram is not going to show your photos to all of those who follow you and to potential new followers. So I have a real belief in a thing called circle of focus, and that you have to maintain a circle of focus and focus in on what is the most important for you. So you really have to make the decision, like, who is my perfect customer and where are they congregating? And what is it that I want to teach them or offer to them? And for me, I have not taken the approach of posting numerous times per day on Instagram because of I'm just trying to keep my circle of focus tighter. You just get so divided in photography. There are just 1,000 different things to do. So I have focused on paid advertising, and I have been able to build a community. We run photographyacademy.com, and we have a Photography Academy Facebook group. And through paid advertising, I've been able to accomplish the same thing without posting 4 or 5 times a day. But I'll just say this: if you are posting on Instagram, then you need to have photos that are impressive and that are going to impress people. And it's not the easiest thing to do because the competition on Instagram is incredibly fierce.
Yeah, we have to talk about that. That may be a even a whole separate discussion about, cracking that nut of the advertising model on these social networks. Because, we've all heard that, hey, once you know how to do it, it becomes a cash machine. You just pour money into it. And then if you set up your targeting right, money comes out. The more money than you put in on the front end comes out the other end. So you just keep putting money in. The problem is, like gambling, I think, is if you don't understand how to play poker, you could really lose a lot of money in that learning phase, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So right.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that definitely, or maybe we'll do it separately. But Colin Smith, what about you, man? How do you've got a YouTube strategy, you do live from lockdown, and you're out there on social media in a different kind of way. What are some tips that you give people to sort of build up their ecosystem of social presence?
Well, I think Bobby said it right, when she said it's consistency. Consistency is key, right? So you've got to choose. I don't think you can be proficient on every platform at the same time, because you can't just take something and reproduce it. And, because it's a different language, it's a different culture on, say, YouTube than it would be on Facebook or Instagram. So, my focus is on YouTube, and, we've got an algorithm that we have to feed. It's like a monster. And so I do twice a week. Every Tuesday I post at, literally my post goes live at 4 a.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. In about 50 weeks, I think I've been late once. And then the Live from Lockdown, we just did 30 weeks of those, and that's at 1 p.m. So if you do it at the same time every day, if you're doing it daily or weekly or whatever your schedule is, then people will be expecting it. So like on Tuesday, people are already going on my channel looking for my video because they're expecting it. They know it's going to be there. Like a TV show, that's programmed at a certain time. And I think it's just important to do that. And if you make a promise to your audience, you got to keep that promise, because it's community. For me, it's all about community, building community. And that's always been my approach.
Yeah, I wonder about that. Yeah, that's a really good approach. And the one thing to keep in mind for all the folks that are watching this, that there's no one right way, obviously, right? We've heard 3 vastly different ways of approaching things. You've heard, establish a strong cadence of posting, multiple times a day. We've heard using paid media, and we've heard establishing a schedule as you work through. Maybe it's a combination of all those things that'll work for you, or one or the other. But yeah, it's interesting how this stuff goes. But I think the bottom line of it is you have to do something that you can sustain over and over again. Let's take a question. So there's a question from Frederick. Great name, by the way, in the chat. That's a strong name. Frederick says, is it possible to do meaningful work part-time? Do you know a way to make this work without losing momentum? Interesting. So let's say you got a day job, you want to shoot, how do you, there's only so many marbles in the bucket. Colin, you want to continue? You want to take that one? How do you, if you, how do you do meaningful work and do it on a part-time basis?
Yeah, and it's definitely possible. I know some people that that do it and do incredible work. In fact, because they're just very inspired. And in fact, if you're trying to move from being doing it part-time and you want to build a business, that's the way to do it. So, when I started my business, I started on the side and then built that up until, I had a solid client base, and then I could switch that full-time rather than just making that jump. And, because that's a big risk when you take that jump. And at some point you got to do it, but you want to kind of build that. So, I'm not sure if I answered that directly, but that would be.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
Yeah.
The answer is always, it depends, right? So Tim, you want to take a crack at that? What do you think? Doing meaningful work on a part-time basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And the first step in that process is that you need to build yourself a body of work, which is another way of saying a portfolio. And I believe in some level of consistency so that your work has its own voice, and you have your own artistic style in your body of work. And when you start to continue and very purposefully and intentionally go out there to take more photos and post-process them in that kind of same consistent way, I think that's step one to being able to start really making a name for yourself, that consistent type, that look. And if you look at some of the really big names on Instagram, like Max Rive, for example, he has millions and millions of followers. And you look at any of his photos, you just instantly know that's a Max Rive. I look at Peter Lick's work, probably one of the most famous landscape photographers in the world. And I can look at just one of his photos and I instantly know that's a Peter Lick image. So I think it's important. Don't just be doing the shotgun approach where you're just taking a little bit of everything, but hone in, focus in, decide what is your specialty and what do I love doing the most, and then get really, really good at doing that one thing.
Yeah, and be known for that. Bobby, I want to bring you in on that because, when we were showing your Instagram feed there, like I said, very cohesive. You could look at it, and like Tim was saying, you could take any one of those and say, yeah, I kind of know who that came from, right? So how do photographers that are struggling and to understand what genre that they want to play in, and then establishing a style within that genre, how do they do that? What are some tips on how to, sort of solidify the direction that you want to take?
I think that for us, we just take consistency to a whole new level, because it's not just myself. I'm not the only person taking the pictures. If you look at our Instagram feed or social media, everything on there was taken by myself or Doug or Courtney. And in order to do that, we have to, it's hard enough to be consistent with one person. Now imagine times that by 3 people who have 3 strong, very personalities. We shoot with the same gear. We shoot at all of our portraits, for example, for our family sessions, we shoot at the same time of day. We're only shooting before 2 hours before sunset. We're not shooting at noon light, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just not something that's our style. And so just doing little tips, little tricks like that, just to make everything more consistent is so important. But you can, with going back to kind of what you were talking about, meaningful, having meaningful work, it's you can do that part-time, but it depends on what you want to take. Do you want to take that work to the next level? Do you want to bring it to a business? Do you want to quit your job? Do you want to make more money? And so those are 2 really different things. If you're just happy doing photography on the side and producing meaningful work, then you can do that no matter how many hours of the day you have. But I know that for us personally, we've always wanted to go to the next level. And for us, it was working at 2 a.m. and after the kids and husband go to sleep, and just fitting in photography and to better my craft, no matter how long it took and how many hours out of the day it took, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah, and that sort of speaks to motivation. And Colin, I'll have you jump in on this, because when you were talking about your sort of your stack of how you get things done and the cadence and all that, what I was hearing was a lot of community in there. So you're building a community of people that are interested in what you're doing and interested in your work, and they like the your teaching style and the accent doesn't hurt, right, Colin? So, so what do you tell me? Like, if is community, like, should photographers that are either moving in a I'm an amateur photographer and I'm happily an amateur photographer, or I want, like, Bobby was saying, I want to move in the pro direction and make a living out of this. How important is establishing a community foundation under that, or is it at all?
I think what happens is it doesn't matter if you're going to be doing this professionally or you're doing it as a hobby. Either way, there's something, and I find it sadly lacking in the professional photography business, and which is why some people don't make it, is first and foremost, you got to love what you do. Choose your genre. You don't choose a genre chooses you. Like, you do something and you just love it and you fall in love with it. And what happens is people can tell if you're fake. They can tell if you're burned out and you've got no passion, you're jaded, or they can tell that you genuinely love what you're doing. And then when you're doing what you truly love, you attract. It's the law of attraction. And then you attract those kind of people that are attracted to what you're doing. So, birds of a feather, right? So say, like drone photography, like I got into drone photography and then suddenly I was attracting a lot of drone photographers, and then that community starts to build around people that are sharing a passion. If there's no passion there and there's no love there, seriously, go do something else, because you won't succeed. You can't succeed. You will burn out.
Let's explore that a little bit. I have a bunch of other questions I want to get to as well. I want to remind the folks that are watching this, throw your questions in the Q&A, and we'll get to them in about 15 minutes during the Q&A segment, 15 to 20 minutes during the Q&A segment. So if you have questions for any of these guests or all of them together, just throw it in there. But, piggybacking on what you said, Colin, if to sort of abandoning things, if it's not what you want to do and a genre will choose you, you don't choose the genre. How does that work with, you have to keep doing something in order to get better at it. You have to repetition, and, the winners are the ones that stick with things and go all the way through. Where's that point of inflection of knowing that, what, this isn't working. I need to go with portraiture because this macro photography just isn't for me. Like, how do you Colin, you can take that, man. How do you know when to split it?
If you love something, eventually you're going to get good at it. That's just what happens, because everything, you become like a magnet and you're attracting that all the time, right? So you're noticing things, you're looking for magazines, books, your ears are open, you're hearing anything that feeds that subject or that topic that you're really in love with, right? So,
yep.
You might suck, and you might suck for a long time, but if you love it and you just keep going, eventually you're going to get really good. Go talk to anyone, or who's the best in the world at anything. They still love it. Like Gordon Ramsay still loves cooking. He still gets exciting about putting salt on a burger. So eventually, even if you're not good right now, it doesn't matter. You will get good eventually. So when should you quit? If you've got no joy for it, you're terrible at it, and you don't even like it. Like,
you dread doing it. I don't know. Tim, I want to bring you in on this. So, that same question, there's two sides of the coin. If at first you don't succeed, try again, and then the definition of insanity, which we know is, not the definition of insanity, but it's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Which one is right? Which one is wrong?
Well, this is something that's really near and dear to my heart. I'll never forget a trip to the Grand Canyon in 2010. I was just a hobbyist photographer, landscapes, and it was like, come on, family, we're going to the Grand Canyon. And the kids are like, yay, what are we going to do when we get there? And landscape photography. And then, so there we are, we're down at the Grand Canyon. I'm walking along the edge of the South Rim. I'm looking around with my camera and I'm realizing, man, I don't even know what to take a picture of. I don't know what looks good. And when I got home, I was so frustrated with my photos. And at that time, it was like, I just felt like giving up. I just thought, oh, I'm so useless. But through that failure of that particular trip, that's when I started auguring in so deep and taking such a deep dive into landscape photography. And I actually developed a 4-step system as a result of that trip, so that in step 1, you make sure that you're always in the right place at the right time to get the awesome light. There's sort of a real research component. Step 2 is knowing exactly how to find an awesome composition when you're finally at the location, so that there's no more hunting around aimlessly, not knowing what to look for. Now I know what to look for. And then step 3 is in the camera settings, that there are only really 2 goals with your camera settings. There's a million options, a million buttons, but just 2 goals. And that's get a sharp photo in landscape, make sure it's tack sharp, and make sure it's correctly exposed, like your sky is not blown out. And finally, step 4 is your post-processing, so that you add drama in an appropriate way and don't overcook the thing. And when you kind of just break it down into those 4 steps, then it's like there's a system that you can follow that made all the difference in the world for me. And once I started to use that system, then I started to teach it. And now we have thousands of people who are using it as well and getting awesome results. So it is something, in response to your question, that I've wanted to give up on it many times over the course of my life. It can be frustrating, like the game of golf, but when you systematize it and really take a deep dive into that learning, that's when you push through, you break through, you overcome that hurdle, and you start to see real success.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, because I have sort of a regimented, ex-military mind, and I love being able to focus on one thing and having a recipe, and I know I can get repeatable results if I follow that recipe, but then I have the latitude to go outside of that recipe and experiment and do different things. I think that's a brilliant approach. Bobby, I want to switch it over to you and talk a little bit about let's talk about photography a little bit. Have you heard of that? Let's talk about, and from a post-processing standpoint, there's a million different ways to approach like what Tim was saying, not overcooking an image and sort of getting to something that looks amazing. There's Capture One, there's Photoshop, there's Luminar, there's Lightroom. It goes on and on and on, and then there's a myriad of mobile apps that people can use, that people are using more and more these days. Tell us about your workflow, your behind the scene workflow. How do you get those shots that you're so famous for?
Sure. We shoot pretty much wide open all day, every day, and just adjusting shutter speed and ISO to compensate for that. And then afterwards, we do the majority of our editing workflow is actually done in Lightroom, and we basically do a lot of batch editing. So the presets that we specifically use are the same ones that we produce for sale. So there's some preset developers out there who will develop presets for different styles. So if you want a light and airy look, here's this set. If you want this kind of set, here's a dark and moody set. For us, for everything that we produce for sale is the same exact presets and actions that we use in our own work. And each, you can kind of tell, is a progression about where our style kind of started and where it's progressing. So every time that we come out with a new preset or Lightroom action or preset set, it's because that's what we're gravitating towards, and that's what we're changing our editing style for that. So so when we're developing those presets, they work pretty fast for us. We underexpose our images about a stop, and we bring back those highlights a little bit, and then always trying to just get a little bit of a film base, and then just kind of more of a dark and moody style, I guess, but still have really good skin tones and still be clear and crisp. That makes sense.
I love that. It does, yeah. And I like, looking at different photographers' work, and if you're any kind of visual storyteller, right? When you watch movies, you look at the LUTs that they're using, and you're like, oh, that looks really cool. I see the mood that they're kind of evoke. Oh, it's kind of cool. So they're trying to, do this. It's interesting. And when I look at other photographers' work, I get the same kind of feel. Like, what was Bobby trying to tell us with the processing of this image, right? And it sort of comes through. Colin, I want to throw it over to you. There's a question in the chat that I think will be great for you. Jordan says, so many photographers during the lockdown seem to have lost their drive. How have you all dealt with this? Colin, we'll start with you. Not saying that you've lost your drive, but a lot of people have lost their kind of motivation.
And I can get that. Yeah, I mean, I haven't done a commercial shoot since since February or March. In fact, I was just starting. I was on the KISS World Tour, as David Lee Roth's photographer, and I was going to be shooting all these music festivals all around the world, and I guess that's not happening right now. So, so you got to pivot. I haven't done a ton of shooting like I normally would. I mean, I've gone out and I've done some shooting and I've shot some stuff. I mean, obviously, keep going, but this is a great opportunity because I don't know about you, but I've got, I don't know, maybe 100,000 photos in my Lightroom catalog that I'm going to edit one day. And that day's come, and so it's a great time to go back over that work that you've been putting off and just get in there and it's a great opportunity. And if you're developed all your stuff, great opportunity to go back maybe and do some stuff that you've done before and redo it with the knowledge that you have today, because I can guarantee that something you did 5 years ago, you do it today, it's going to look a lot better because you're always learning new things, you're getting new tools, new techniques, and remixing, taking images and then saying, I went with this flavor, but what if I remix it with this? And one of the things I do, I'm sure you guys probably all do it because we're all, artists are all sort of alike in some ways, is I put on music. So I decide, okay, what is it I want to create? And for me, it's really important is the soundtracks. I have playlists that I have, and I'll put on the sound of what I want to create. And then it just gets me in the zone. I get in that mood. And then that helps me for my choices when I choose colors or tones, when I go lighter or darker. Because, I used to think there was a rule. Okay, you make it brighter for this type of shot, right? And this type of shot, it goes darker. But both look good to me. I haven't learned which one's right. That's what I used to think. But the truth of the matter is they're both right. So, you get into that mood you want, and then you make those decisions easier because those decisions fit with that particular mood or style you're going with.
Colin, do you feel like the choosing a soundtrack while you're post-processing, does it imprint like in your brain on that image? Like if you come back to that image a couple of weeks later, you remember the song that you were playing when you edited it?
That's interesting. I've never thought about that before, to be honest. I literally probably could look at the images and know what playlist I was listening to because that pushed me in that style. But I wouldn't necessarily think of, the particular song because I'm not really listening to the music. It's just part of the atmosphere.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, Tim, what would you say to that? The staying inspired during a global pandemic when we're being inundated with so much bad news every day and you're stuck at home and photographers want to be out and about capturing photons. Well, how do you stay inspired?
Well, the really good news with that is that we are right now in the most beautiful time of the year. Here we are in the middle of October and we have these fall colors if you live in North America or Europe. And it's the most amazing time. And my encouragement to everyone in our photography community is like, don't miss this. This is like the 5-day deal of landscape photography, right? Yeah. This is the fall colors. And if you blink, it's over for another year and you've missed out. So my recommendation is always that you don't need to travel really far away and jump on an airplane. There are going to be some awesome photography opportunities near your home that you're just not aware of yet. So one trick is to go to 500px and type in the name of the city or town that you live in and look at the response and then filter by pulse so that 500px will show you the images with the highest pulse. And you'll start to see, hey, I didn't realize that there was this composition that I could go get that's near home. And likewise, if you have a state park, a city park, do the same thing on 500px. Go to Instagram and then do a hashtag search, like hashtag city park name, and look at the first 9 entries that come up because those are the most popular of the week. And get inspired by doing that. And when you see something that you like, model the success from that photographer and go out to that location and create your own success. There's never a better time of the year to do that than right now.
I love that. Yeah, and that's right. And it gets, it's so easy to just sit around and not do anything and sort of, be depressed about what's going on or follow Tim Shields' advice and get out there. Yeah, it's interesting. And, so on the webinar, we did a webinar yesterday, and one of the things that came up was, using this time where you're kind of trapped, behind closed doors as an opportunity, like Colin was saying, as an opportunity to learn and dive into things like the 5-day deal and all the resources that are in there to up your game and get inspired maybe on different genres of photography and just sort of use the time wisely versus, binge watching, Breaking Bad again, use it to build your brain up. I want to take another question. This is specifically for you, Bobby. It's from Aaliyah. Aaliyah says, practice is everything when starting out as a portrait photographer. How do you get people to practice on without wasting their time? I know some photographers that actually get on Amazon and buy mannequins and put those, to practice lighting techniques, Rembrandt and all that stuff. What's a good way to, to find subjects to practice your craft on?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We've found success, and I found a success, especially with families, very early on when I was looking to build my portfolio, was to just put a model call out on Facebook or Instagram now, but back when I started was Facebook. Do a model call, but also have some special caveats that come with that. So say I want a model call, I want a family, but you have to work with me for outfits, or you need to for like a specific style, because you just don't want someone to come in all wearing 6 family members wearing denim jumpsuits or something like that. So just working with the family and say, hey, this is the look I'm going for. Say you wanted to do a very boho inspired family session, and say, hey, I'll shoot your family for free, but in order for you to get this free session and to get these images, this is what you need to do for me. And so have it be very clear with what you need from them, and then kind of go from there. But model calls have always worked out really great for us. If you don't have a Facebook or an Instagram that has a lot of diversity with followers or likes or stuff like that, just spread the word through family and friends. Everyone is looking for a photographer, especially for family photography. And so just spreading the word out. Everyone knows, oh, my sister's friend would be great. Oh, they got the cutest kids. They'll love that. Reach out to them. The worst that people can say is no, but I know that once you start putting feelers out there, there's way more people that want a free session than they're not. And so just like I said, being able to put those having that give and take, be very clear from the beginning about what you need from them, and then what they can expect from you.
And Bobby, just to piggyback on that, so should photographers that want to make a business out of this, and I'm going to segue the conversation into business and marketing in a second, but photographers that want to make a business out of this, should they and they want to practice as well, but should they be practicing just the photography, or should they be practicing the whole workflow and life cycle of the customer? Like, even though I'm doing this for free, please fill out this model release, please sign this thing, here's your invoice with a 0 balance, and this is how I'm going to deliver you the images all the way through as if they were a paid client? Or should they focus on just getting better at shooting?
That is such a great question, and I am such a huge proponent in consistency, not only with your images, with how they look, how you edit, but consistency within your business practice. It might surprise some people to find out that my sister signs a contract for us every time that we shoot her. This is my sister. And it is something where you can only get better. People just always think, oh, photography, it's just taking pictures, but it's not. The business side for us is probably 80% business and 20% taking pictures. And to be able to get those new clients and to get those new free shoots, to be able to put them into a business workflow right away, you're only going to get better at that part of your business as well. So it's a great opportunity to just take those new non-paid clients and to treat them like a real paid client. And so everything will be just consistent. So I love that question. So I'm a huge.
That's perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. Hey, Tim, I got a question for you. So, the 5-Day Deal folks are running polls in here, and one of the polls was about, what genre of photography do you like the best? And it seems like landscape photographers are the weight or the bulk of people in here. There are other people, obviously, but I'm curious. Part of the struggle that I have personally with landscape photography is I live in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. We've got things here like wineries, we've got mountains with Yosemite, we've got the Golden Gate Bridge, goes on and on, all tourist attractions, right? And whenever I go to the Golden Gate Bridge and I look at it, my brain sees a bubble around it of every potential shot that has ever been made and has already been made. And I look at it, I'm thinking, what can I do that Tim hasn't done, right? So how can I bring value to this shot? Or am I just doing another shot? Or is it just for me and I don't care what people think? What do you think? Like, how do you address that for people that are like, you know what, I want to go shoot Yosemite, but Ansel Adams has already been there. And how can I ever hope to be anywhere close to Ansel Adams? What do you say?
Yeah, Frederick, such an awesome question. I get asked this a lot. And my philosophy on it is that even if you are going to the most popular photography location in the world, like Golden Gate Bridge or Horseshoe Bend in Page, Arizona, which is a place that I just love. Like, it's very difficult to find a unique and original composition at Horseshoe Bend because there is kind of just one main shot to frame up. But I want to give you and all of the listeners here permission to go get the popular shot that's already been taken 10 million times, because still it is your shot. It's your fine art that you're creating. The sky is going to be different. The lighting is going to be different. The clouds are going to be different. The sunset is going to be different. And even though you're taking a picture of kind of the same general composition, it's still yours. And it's uniquely yours. It's fine art that you've created yourself. And so go get the popular shot. And once you've got that, I call it get it in the can. You know, you've got the popular shot in the can, then start walking around and looking for something that's more unique. Like maybe you're going to find an interesting foreground element to include, and you will use that foreground element to help with the storytelling of your image, and maybe throw a wide angle lens on, get low to the ground. And then the foreground element becomes the main subject because it's bigger. And then the Golden Gate Bridge is now in the background. It's a lot smaller. It's not the main subject anymore. Now you have something totally unique. So, you know, really in response to the question, it's like, go get the popular shot, get it done, get it in the can, and then look for the unique composition. And then when you get home, get it all in the computer. Then you'll make your decisions on which ones you're going to really post-process.
Yeah, I love that. And Colin, I want to throw this at you. You know, like you mentioned in the beginning, you do a lot of drone photography. In fact, I remember watching lots of your videos way back in the Phantom days. Remember when you were taking the Phantom out and showing how this is how you put the blade on there and all that. You know, which thank you for those, and thank you for spending my money because I think I bought one of those. But you know, for people that are in that world, the drone photography world specifically, and to piggyback on what Tim said, you know, and what the question to Tim was, you know, these shots have been done before, and now that drones are so proliferated and very popular right now, we're seeing drone shots everywhere in movies and sitcoms everywhere. How do people differentiate themselves there? You know, how do you get a shot that's interesting without saying, yeah, I saw this shot, Colin did this, but you know, so I'm just going to leave it on the hard drive. How do you differentiate yourself with aerial photography?
That's such a funny question to have, in the sense of, like, a few years ago, the whole point of the drone was like, oh, things that have been shot a million times.
Right.
They're unique now because we got a drone and we're shooting from angles never used before. And of course, like you're saying, now these angles are being used. But the thing is, it's always different. And try some different things like flying the drone lower. That's one of the things I do a lot is I fly my drone low so it doesn't even look like a drone shot, you know. Sometimes, you know, people do the bird's eye straight down and clearly that's a drone shot, but half my drone shots, if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know I used a drone. So but literally, you know, before they banned it at Laguna Beach, I used to go to the same location. I remember I shot the same location every day for 90 days in a row. I went to the same spot, and my goal was to, you know, how can I get a different shot each day for 90 days of the same thing? And guess what? You can. Just, you know, the light changes, you know, like it's a personality, you know, like Tim was saying, you know, landscape is living, it's breathing, it's never the same. You know, every day it's different, or even within an hour it changes. So the light is changing, and it's like, and maybe the light is highlighting different things in the landscape, and it's like, okay, you know, oh wow, that's really popping today. How do I get that? How do I get it from a different angle? How do I get it from a different altitude? So, you know, it's just, yeah, changing things up, and not even thinking, okay, I've got this, I've shot this before, this is, you know, don't even think about that. Just think about, here is me, and this is what's in front of me, and this is what I'm photographing today, and just take it fresh every day. Even though it might not be fresh, but just treat it like it's fresh.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's move into the Q&A. And Colin, I want to continue with this on this question. And Griffin Stewart, one of the co-founders of the 5-Day Deal, is backstage. I want to bring him out on stage to help us with this Q&A and also give some words about how the deal is going. But I want to kick it off with this question to you, Colin. This is from an anonymous attendee. This person says, I feel like I am not artistically talented enough to be successful with my post-processing. Does it take talent to be good at post-processing, or is it something that you can learn?
Well, here's the thing. When everybody starts, no one's talented. And as they do it longer, they get more talented. There's concrete things that you can learn. There's rules that you can learn. Anyone can learn, I believe, and just do these things, learn the rules, learn the tricks, learn, what it is just, you've got to learn, first of all, what is it you're trying to look for? Like I remember the first time, I started editing a photo. I'm like, what do we want to do here? Oh, we want to show the details in the shadows, or, oh, we want to show the details in the highlights. Okay. That's just the technical part. So get the technical part down, and then the artistry will follow. That'll just come automatically, and you'll develop your own style automatically. You don't have to look for that. Just learn and just follow. Like there's certain things that you need to do in Photoshop, that are just, everyone does them once they realize, oh, okay, this is the workflow. Just start with that. And anyone, I believe anyone can definitely do that.
So it's learned. Yeah, for sure. Well, good. Awesome. Well, Griffin Stewart has made himself known inside the Zoom. Griffin is a co-founder of the 5-Day Deal. Griffin, welcome to the webinar. And can you give us an idea of how the deal is going so far? We're about at the midway point. Can you tell us how it's going? And then also, what was the inception of the deal? Why did you guys put this thing together?
Sure, yeah. Thanks so much, Frederick. And thanks so much, everybody, for coming. Tim, Colin, and Bobby, thanks for your time. And to all of our attendees, thanks so much for being here. We're really excited about this. As far as the inception of 5-Day Deal, I'm a photography enthusiast, have been for, I don't know, since they made 3 megapixel cameras at the top end, and just really love photography, and had seen some bundles sales in small business and travel, which is another hobby of mine, and wanted to try it in photography. And so we put this together, and one of the things that we wanted to do from the start was have it to be about more than just making money. And so from the very first sale that we did, we donate 10% of gross revenue to charity. And, we kind of had an idea like, okay, this might go okay. We might be able to donate, maybe $10,000, maybe $20,000 to charity. And that would be awesome and make a huge impact. And our first sale, we were able to donate over 45,000, and our second sale we were able to donate, I believe it was over 200,000. So in our first year, we were at almost 250,000 donated to charity, and this thing was just, it really filled a need for education that's high quality but at a lower cost, and the impact has just been amazing. So this sale, we had a goal of donating 300,000 meals to charity. And we thought we would reach that goal maybe sometime tomorrow or later tonight or something. And that goal, we blew through that goal last night around 2 a.m. or something. Thankfully, I was sleeping, but that's really exciting to see. And it's just been amazing to see the impact that can be had when our awesome contributor partners like Tim, Colin, Bobby, and Frederick's been a contributor for many years as well, come together. And when you as customers, are able to save money that has an impact globally and changes lives. So thank you all for doing that. We're really excited. If you haven't checked out the bundle this year, we tried to add way more products than we normally do. We usually kind of limit how many products and everything because it's overwhelming. But during this time with COVID going on and so many photographers and individuals out of work, we've really tried to make this our best bundle yet and just be super generous with what you get in it. And if you don't if you don't need the bundle or want the bundle or can't afford the bundle, we also totally understand that. And that's what this webinar, and we've got a lot of free tips on our social channels, and we're just trying to help and give back and inspire people, whether you decide to purchase or not. So thanks so much.
That's great. That is awesome. That's awesome. Well, good. Well, let's dive in and take some of these questions before we end. We're about, see how quick these hours go? We're like 10 minutes before we have to end this thing. Salim has a question. And any of you guys feel free to jump in on this. Salim says, I'm a retired airline pilot and have a collection of 40,000 images from all over the world. My question is, how do I get on social media to show my pictures? I'm an amateur. Crickets. Bobby, I'm gonna throw at you, Bobby.
I would say just start off by making a Facebook page. I mean, that's probably the easiest, simplest form where you could do. You don't have to be a professional. It doesn't cost anything. And it's just a great platform where you can just keep everything. You can have different albums. You can have, from that, you can open an Instagram page and everything ties into that. And then eventually, if you come to a place where you're looking at, 40,000, that's a lot of images. That's amazing. If you go to a place where you want to, sell some of your images online, there's some great platforms out there. SmugMug is one off the top of my head where you can showcase more of those. If you want to get to a place where you want to start selling your images, but it kind of depends on what your goal is. If you just want to share your art with people, or if you want to actually move to a place where you are want to sell it. So it's kind of depends on what you want. And I love the business side of photography, and I love all of that stuff that comes along with that. So if it is something where this person wants any more additional help, reach out to me. I'd love to help set up or give you some more tips on how to, the best way to kind of go from point A to point B for setting stuff up. I can send you a list that I give a lot of my mentoring clients who want to start out a business with just a very much of a checklist. So. And
Bobby, if he wants to reach out to you or anybody else wants to reach out to you, where should they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. info@twigandolive.com is our email address. Otherwise, we have a pretty a good social media following of Facebook and Instagram. Twig and Olive is the hashtag or the @ site on each of those, and I do answer every single message that comes through, and so there's no question that's too stupid or dumb. I love networking and working with everyone, so definitely reach out. I'd love to connect with more people afterwards.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, let's take another question. Again, this one's from Frederick. It says, any suggestions about scanning film photos into the digital realm? I have a lot of backlog from the past that I haven't done anything with or shared. So what's the best way? Tim, you want to take that one? Getting those shots that we're taking with that old film stuff, into the new world. What's the best way?
Yeah, so I haven't personally cracked the code on that one, but I know that for Nikon, for example, they have an attachment that you can put over top of your lens, and you can slide your negatives, your old-fashioned negatives, into this attachment and then take a picture with your camera. And I've been reading the reviews on this thing, and it looks really good. I just haven't done it myself.
Okay. Cool. Here's another one for you, Tim. That's a follow-up. Iwona says, my photos have washed out skies. How do I get rid of that?
That's an easy one. Yeah. So you need to treat the histogram on your camera like it's your new best friend. So for whatever camera model you have, you need to do a Google search with the model number of your camera and then show histogram. And so what I do is whenever I take a photo, a landscape, I just press one button. It shows the histogram, and you want to pay attention to the right side of your histogram. So if the curvy graph part is bumping up against the right side, then you need to slightly darken that photo. And the way to do that really easily is with your EV button, exposure compensation it's called. Just go down to a -1 and then retake the photo, check it again with the histogram. And that is how you make sure that your skies are not blown out. And that's one of the 2 goals with your camera settings.
Love it. Love it. You guys are clearly professional educators. I love this. Speaking of professional educators, Colin, I want to segue into the bundle, the 5-day deal bundle, and talk about what's in there. And I want to have each of you guys highlight what products you've contributed to the bundle this year, starting with you, Colin Smith. What do you have in there?
Yeah, so I have two. And the first one I thought would be really useful, which is something that I get a lot of requests for. It's actions and automation in Photoshop. So there's just so many things you do in Photoshop that, you have a computer, it's a robot. And people are manually working when they have a robot right in front of them. So I have a philosophy: if you have to do something more than twice, then you're probably doing it the hard way. There has to be an easier way. So, and I've been, doing Photoshop for 20 years. And I've discovered a lot of quicker ways of doing things. And so that could be, obviously using actions. And a lot of people are used to using actions, but more just for creative, like they buy action sets and apply it, and it does that. And of course, actions are good for that, but they're also good for repetitive tasks. For example, frequency separation or luminosity masks. Like the time you spend setting up all those layers, you put them in an action, you just click one button and you're ready to go. But not beyond that, there's different things like batch processing. For example, you need to do something with 5,000 photographs. You don't want to have to do it 5,000 times. You can do it once and then hit a button and let Photoshop do the work. So that's one of the strengths. And there's a lot of different automation using scripts and different things like that. So this course in there is not teaching you how to write a script. It's not teaching you how to be a computer programmer. What it's doing is it's teaching you how to use what's already there, so that you don't do repetitive things. Focus on being creative and let the computer work for you. The second one I have in there is video in Photoshop. And a lot of people are not aware that you can edit video in Photoshop. Photoshop's a great video editor. Now, you shouldn't do episodic television. Like I do YouTube. I don't do my vlogs in Photoshop. But Photoshop is like a mini Premiere Pro, but it's also a mini After Effects. And so, you want to create little, promos, bumpers, trailers, these types of things. 2-minute, 3-minute projects, or even 30-second projects. It's really powerful. So you can apply, all the filters, adjustment layers, all that you could, just the way you work on a photo, you can do it with a video inside of Photoshop. So it's a very simple course. It works in Photoshop CS6 as well, of course, CS6 through CC. And it walks you through the process from the very beginning. Like if you know nothing about, like you didn't even know you could do video, by the time you finish that course, you're going to be editing all your videos in Photoshop.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. Bobby Peterson, what's the product that you have in this year's bundle?
Sure. We have one of our most popular preset, our sort of spring gem preset. So we use that quite a bit in the spring, late part of winter if you're from the Midwest, and then also down south where you have the different like Arizona, Florida, where you get that just not the 4 distinct seasons. So we use it's one of our most popular preset sets. And then the other thing is that it's just a newly released, it's a boho rattan, kind of a boho marketing set that we just created for this year's bundle. So it comes with a whole crap ton of things. It comes with a newborn pricing guide, a wedding guide, a vendor referral guide. It comes with different pricing sheets and what's next cards and business cards. It just kind of is a huge just collection of just everything to kind of streamline and just like jumpstart your business. If you just are looking for something, everything is editable. You can edit it on Photoshop. And then also it comes with a bonus mini session marketing set. So if you're looking at something even to do, you can, I've seen some of our clients will, instead of taking the little, the Photoshop file, and instead of advertising Mother's Day mini sessions, you can advertise, hey, you need some model clients. They're completely editable, so you can do whatever you want with those. And then also a social media marketing set as well. So everything matches. It's super cohesive, which, as everyone knows, is super important in our business. And everything matches with the preset. It kind of gives like the same vibe and feel of a kind of a boho look and feel. So
love it. Cool. All right, can't wait to check that out. All right, and last but not least, bringing us home, we're right at the top of the hour, Tim Shields. What do you have in the bundle for us to check out this year?
So I've included what I consider to be the most important thing that I can personally offer in helping people to take awesome fine art landscape photos. And my class is a video class. It's called Composition Secrets. So here's the deal. If you are building a house, what's the first thing you do to build a house? You dig a hole, you pour a concrete foundation, and then you construct the wood frame up on top of that concrete foundation. And if the foundation is not perfectly level, or if the concrete is not strong, then that house is going to fall down. And the exact same thing is true about the composition of your fine art landscape photo. If the composition is not solid and as good as it can possibly be, then the final outcome of your photo is not going to be as impressive as it could be. So in this class that I've offered up to the 5-day deal, it's called Composition Secrets. And these are the 4 steps that you can take just to make sure that you are finding the best possible composition, no matter where you are. How to use the rules of composition, how to use storytelling in your photos, and how to stack the rules of composition. So you're using the highest number of rules of composition inside the same frame. And yeah, this is kind of the course that I wish that I had 10 years ago when I was with my family on the edge of the Grand Canyon. If I had this course, then my photos would have been a lot better from that trip.
I love it. I love it. What a great story. All right. This is cool. There, like I said, I knew we were going to do this. I knew it was going to happen. We're going to run out of time. There's more questions to answer. There's more stuff that I want to talk about. I had a list of questions here I couldn't even get to because this is just riveting. This is, this is good stuff. If folks asked us to ask a question that we weren't able to get to, we're doing another webinar this evening at 7 p.m. Pacific time with Anna Brandt, Chris Orwig, and Matt Granger. We're going to repeat the same thing. We're going to do it again. So if you want to join in on that one, it's also free. Come hang out at that one. So we'll leave it right there, guys. Let's just close it off with one last thing. Just run through and give your URL where people can go check you out, and then we'll close off the webinar. Bobby, we'll start with you.
Sure. Pretty simple, guys. twigandolive.com.
All right. And Colin?
PhotoshopCafe.com, and also on YouTube at Photoshop Cafe.
Awesome. And Tim Shields?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about how you can use a 4-step system to transform your photography and change the way you take your images for the rest of your life, then check out photographyacademy.com.
Wonderful. All right, we'll leave it there. Griffin Stewart, any final thoughts before we end the webinar?
Yeah, just wanted to say thanks so much to everybody for coming. Thanks, Tim, Colin, Bobby, and Frederick for putting this on, and Frederick for hosting it. And yeah, we'd love to see you over at 5-Day Deal. And I hope this was a helpful webinar. If you have any tips or suggestions for the next one, we just want to provide value through these webinars. It's not a hard sales pitch or anything like that. Just let us know and we'll be glad to tweak it. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.